On News Hour tonight, El-Rufai confronts security operatives, vows to take legal action. U.S. House proposed action against illegal mining in Nigeria. 128 nurses begin strike at Kaduna Neuropsychiatric Hospital. And on the international scene, at least 36 dead, 100 injured in cyclone packing violent winds in Madagascar. Hello, good evening and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Fatima Ahmed Musa and thank you so much for joining us. I'll begin the news with political issues. Media advisor to former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has alleged that security agents attempted to arrest his principal at the airport on his return from Cairo. According to Muyiwa Adeke, operatives moved to take El-Rufai into custody as he disembarked from the aircraft. He claimed the former governor declined to go with them, insisting on a formal invitation and clear explanation for the action. Adeke further alleged that following El-Rufai's refusal, the security operatives turned on one of his aides and seized the former governor's passport. Legal counsel to the former governor of Kaduna State, Ubong Esop Akpang, also condemned the attempted arrest, threatened legal actions against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
I'm his chief of staff.
Questions? Now joining us via Zoom to discuss on the above story is Ladan Saliu, a political analyst. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us. All right, so we'll cycle back to that story. Now, a new bill introduced at the United States House of Representatives has proposed that the U.S. Secretary of State work closely with Nigerian government to curb what it described as hostile foreign exploitation linked to illegal Chinese mining operations in Nigeria. The proposed legislation, titled the Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, was sponsored by 5 Republican lawmakers: Chris Smith, Riley Moore, Brian Mast, Mario Diaz-Balart, and Bill Hozenga. The sponsors allege that some illegal Chinese mining operators in Nigeria engage in what they described as a destabilizing practice of paying protection money to Fulani militias, thereby worsening insecurity in parts of the country. The bill further calls on the U.S. Secretary of State to provide technical support to Nigerian government to help reduce and eventually eliminate violence by armed Fulani militias. Now joining us to discuss is Yakubu Muhammad, conflict and environmental journalist, Premium Times. Good evening and thank you for joining us. How likely is the proposed Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026 to pass in the U.S. Congress, and what factors will influence its chances? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. So I was asking, how likely is the proposed Nigeria Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026 to pass in the U.S. Congress, and what factors will influence its chances?
I'll start from what factors will influence the first support, that the widespread support that it will gain in the House. Already since last year, we have been seeing the trend since last year about Christian genocide and what U.S. Republicans are saying, especially Moore, Smith, and the rest. So to some extent, I believe this bill may skate through. There are chances that it will skate through in the House. That's just my belief for now. Thank you.
All right, so what impact could U.S. technical assistance and pressure on legal Chinese mining have on Nigeria's security and economic landscape?
That alone may not really have effect on illegal mining and how to checkmate it. So we need our own government back home here. What the government has been telling us about the current engagement with the U.S. government is that it is a partnership. So since it is a bilateral agreement, so let's see how they are going to engage the government in stemming this issue of illegal mining.
Okay, in what ways might designating certain militias as foreign terrorist organizations affect Nigeria's internal conflict and U.S.-Nigeria relations?
Well, designating some groups now, this is not the first time it has happened. So what you just, as usual, what you see is, I will not say more attacks, but then it has been there. People, they are designating the group. But at a point, we need to be very careful about a point that U.S. is making now, that Fulani militia, right? So that is the point we are looking at now. So already, it is a conversation we don't want to have as people, that the Fulani already has been viewed. Any Fulani you see, everyone is wary of them, that, okay, these guys are just terrorists. So it will further this conversation that is currently at play now, will further put Fulani people in a kind of difficult situation, which they are already experiencing. So I don't want to say there will be more attacks as a kind of response to these guys, but then locally we will feel it. It's going to cause some issue, like issue of proliferation, how do I put it? But then it will, they are profiling Fulani already, so there will be more profiling of these guys, and we don't know. We need to check how banditry started. So we need to check the history in Zamfara and other places. So how do these guys respond to this? So after designating them, what do you do next? And how will the action that US will take affect the peace of local communities?
Thank you so much for joining us on the News Hour and contributing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're circling back to the first story of the former Kaduna State Governor that was being arrested by the agencies. Thank you so much for joining us, Ladan Saliu, political analyst. Are you with us? What are the potential political implications of alleged attempted arrest?
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I was asking, what are the potential political implications of the alleged attempted arrest of the former Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai?
Well, I'm not sure whether I've gotten the first part of your question, but first of all, I heard about, you mentioning the political implications. Yeah. We have to, first of all, understand the context of this attempted arrest of Nasir El-Rufai. Recall that, assistants of El-Rufai told the nation that, about a week ago, last week, Wednesday, they had a conversation with the operatives of the EFCC, or one of the security, arms of government, to the extent that they, gave him an invitation but the invitation came to them while he was abroad. So it could not have been served, to him physically. And I thought the operational thing that ought to have been done was to have allowed for the return of El-Rufai, serve him with the invitation or the arrest warrant or any document that will authorize his detention. Then, they can move in and do the needful. But then they waited for him to come to the airport, and upon arrival, an attempt was being made to, arrest him. If you arrest El-Rufai or any citizen for that matter, there are conditions that will necessitate your executing that arrest. First, you must have an arrest warrant or a document signed by a lawful authority inviting him, to answer some questions, or a document that he will hold on to as a matter of fact that will validate, their position. No, they laid siege and waited for him to arrive at the airport, and then they moved on to want to arrest him. And, his own assistants and people, the public at the airport resisted. Now, let me say this without any fear of contradiction, without any equivocation. The fact that his arrest was thwarted by Nigerians, was thwarted by, bystanders and the public at the airport, is sending an early warning signs to the government, to the APC-led government, that impunity, high-handedness, and wanton, disregard for the right of the individual can no longer be tolerated by the public. It is the public that went on and caused a barricade and shielded El-Rufai from being arrested. Nigeria should not degenerate or deteriorate into a situation where the public, the citizenry, the citizens go out by themselves to begin to defend acts of impunity, acts of deliberate political intimidation by the APC-led government against, individuals and citizens that ordinarily should be celebrated for their feat. So it is important that we understand this content. And like I said, it's a warning, it's an early warning sign to the government that this kind of attitude, this kind of high-handedness, this, flagrant violation of the right of the individual, the impunity that comes with it should not be tolerated. And I think somebody should call the security agencies to order that they should not be, willing tools in the hands of political actors, in the hands of, the leaders of the state, to manipulate them, to harass individuals, to coerce political organizations, and to intimidate the opposition into submission. It is unacceptable. Look, it started with who? It started with Amin Waziri Tambo, a senator from Sokoto State. He was detained. And then we now have Malemi in detention, whose bail was given by, the courts in Abuja, and was arrested the same hour by the, members of the Department of State Security Services. He's still in their detention. And now an attempt is being made to arrest El-Rufai. When you take this chronology, you have every reason to believe that government is the mastermind. The EFCC is doing probably its own level best to execute its own actions within the limits of its own setup and regulations, but it is being literally drawn into the political space to begin to be used as a tool by the government to go after the opposition. We will resist it. And this is all being done, my sister, to just what? To deflect, the attention of Nigerians from the core issues that are facing us today, which is what? The idea of, the electronic transmission, direct electronic transmission of results come 2027. So when you bring in some pebbles on the glass windows to shatter them, of course, people in the room will naturally be seen to be scared. We know these tactics, and it will not hold any water.
Do you think this could actually, deepen internal party crisis or divide in the parties?
On the other hand, it will strengthen our resolve in the ADC. It will encourage us. It will give us the gusto that we need. It means that the government knows that we are on the right track, and the global, attitude and and aptitude in democracy is to allow a political opposition to be the radar on which the timeline of governance is viewed. You cannot shut down the opposition. If you do so, then you are running, a one-track democracy, a one-party state. And we've said it time and again that you cannot isolate and insulate corrupt officers in government or in the ruling APC that have been charged to court by the EFCC for allegedly, misappropriating or outrightly stealing billions. And then you celebrate them. Look, and we've said it in other, platforms. How do you explain to Nigerians that you have a Yahaya Bello roaming the streets when he's been accused of what? Siphoning 82 billion naira. You have Bello Matawalle, a minister of state in the government, who has a case with the EFCC of about 72 billion naira. How do you comprehend that these gentlemen are still active and free and roaming the streets, while you hold on to Abubakar Malami? After he's been bailed, you now trump up charges of terrorism, and then you keep him behind bars. Why do we not have people in the APC that are, detained because they have committed crimes, financial crimes against the state? And so you have a government that cherry picks when it comes to the issue of, judgment on who steals and who is a saint. And clearly, when you aggregate all these arrests, when you aggregate all these actions, when you go through the plethora of arrests and detentions and all the debates surrounding these, you discover that is heavily, on the side of the opposition. And tell me one person in government that has been subjected to this kind of man's inhumanity by a fellow man in the name of a law that cherry picks, that picks, on the whims and caprices of the government, who is right and who is wrong. It is not acceptable. And we in the opposition, the ADC especially, will resist all these attempts to stifle and silence and intimidate and, their own tactics to ultimately obliterate the opposition. We will resist it because we are not resisting it for our own selves. We are resisting it in the name and in the service of democracy, for the greater good of our people and for God and country.
All right. Thank you so much for contributing on the News Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now move on to more stories. Displaced persons from farming and herding communities in Mangu local government area of Plateau State yearning to return to their homes years after violence forced them out of their communities. The two groups, Magavo and Fulani, have been at loggerheads since 2022 following attacks that claimed hundreds of lives and destroyed properties and displaced thousands. Since the crisis erupted in local government, both sides have accused each other of carrying out atrocities against their members. Ado Musa completes this report.
Speaking at a stakeholders engagement held in Thursday in Mangu to promote peaceful coexistence, leaders of Mogavul and Fulani communities appealed to security authorities to create conditions that will allow displaced persons to return to their homes. They said hundreds of their members remain displaced and are eager to resume farming and rebuild their lives.
Peace should continue. We are tired of shedding blood. We are tired of shedding tears. We are appealing that let this peace continue. And just like the youth said, the farming season is fast approaching. Some of our people are still displaced. We are still pleading that if there's any way that you can help for these our people to go and farm, possibly let them go back to their ancestral land, we'll appreciate it.
There was a crisis some years ago, and our people were driven out of their communities. They want to return to their homes. We are appealing to the GOC because for the past 3 years, our people have been sleeping under trees. We want to go back and continue our lawful activities. This will help restore confidence and peace. The chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, in Panshi local government area, Reverend Ephraim Ngom, outlined steps toward restoring peace between the two communities.
Youth leader and the women leader from Mangu stood up to plead if their people can be returned back. The Miete Allah, the Fulanis, also stood up to plead if their people can be returned to their place. So the question I am asking is, who is occupying the space where the Magabun man has been displaced? And who is occupying the space where the Fulani was displaced? Can we be sincere to ourselves? In our non-community,
can we tell ourselves the truth? In communities where Fulani people were displaced during the violence, can the leaders ask their people to vacate those spaces to allow them return? Likewise, in places where Mogavul members were displaced, can community leaders ask their people to leave those areas so they can return to their homes?
I believe that if from the both sides, these ones will say nobody should occupy this Fulani land, and this side will say nobody should occupy this Mogavul land, sincerely, we will have enduring peace.
While both groups acknowledge the efforts of security agencies in restoring relative calm in the Mangu area, the General Officer Commanding 3 Division emphasized the need for all parties to embrace peace and learn to live together harmoniously. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Now, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has dissolved the State Executive Council and sacked all special advisors. Fubara has also appointed a new Chief Press Secretary, Mr. Nwoka Nzeshi. The governor's former CPC, Nelson Chukodi, has been relieved of his appointment. However, no reason was given for Chukodi's sack. The cabinet resolution was contained in a government special announcement issued in Port Harcourt on Thursday by Nzeshi. Fubara asked the commissioners and special advisors to hand over to the permanent secretaries or the most senior officers in their ministries with immediate effect. Now, troops of the 3rd Brigade of the Nigerian Army have rescued 8 of the 10 guests abducted by suspected terrorists during a wedding ceremony in Dabawa, Shanono local government area of Kano State. Army sources said the gunmen, reportedly dressed in military camouflage, invaded the venue and whisked away the victims. Following a distress call, troops advanced to the area and engaged the attackers around Garu village in the neighboring Katsina state. The soldiers pursued the assailant up to the Katsina Gidam Mutun Air road axis before contact was lost. Operations are ongoing to rescue the remaining victims and prevent further attacks in the area. Now, residents of Turan in Kwande local government area of Benue State have called on both the state and federal governments to deploy additional security personnel to protect them from further attacks. This follows a series of recent unprovoked assaults on communities in the area, which have claimed at least 22 lives, including a police officer. Trust TV's correspondent in Benue, who visited the affected communities, now reports.
These are some of the deserted communities of Ngihimba, Anwase, Tomotan and Abande in Kwande local government, which have suffered repeated attacks by unknown gunmen suspected to be armed herders. Residents and local authorities are calling for an increased security presence to prevent further violence. They emphasize the need for sustained and coordinated strategies to tackle criminal activities, particularly along the state's waterways and border communities.
I want the government to know that the security people that are being posted here are not up to. They are not doing what is expected of them to be doing. Why I say so is that anytime we are to experience an attack, the security here will have one excuse or the other that will make them not to be present. And immediately they are absent, then we experience an attack. Government should at least pressurize them to put in more.
Surely they are not protecting. They are not for our interest. They told us that they are the men that is on operation. We should not be worried. Nothing will happen. They are not helping us.
They destroy stores and store people properties. There was a lot of stealing. All the stores around here were disrupted and took away many things that are worth up to millions of nairas.
I'm a typical farmer, so let the government please go and keep the security across the line. There's a river overside there called Mo. If there's no security by the side Mo, we'll be okay.
The Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations, Benue State Command, says communities across the state have endured years of repeated attacks by armed groups, resulting in numerous deaths and the displacement of thousands. He adds that the attackers often use inland waterways as escape routes into neighboring states and even across the border into Cameroon.
At the Cameroon boundary, very close to Jukun area of Taraba, there is an exit and the entry point of these armed headers. So if we can deploy the military to secure those areas, I think they will not be able to penetrate this axis.
Days after the attacks, Governor Hyacinth led a high-level delegation, including security chiefs, to the area. During the visit, he placed several measures, including the construction of the Ngihimba and Wase-Abande Road, to ease movement and enhance security patrols and rapid response. He assured residents of relief in the near future, stating that President Bola Tinubu has been briefed on the situation and has directed reinforcements to the area.
What you are seeing now is the resurfacing of the attacks, and this is why I have to be here myself to encourage people to strengthen them and to assure them that as we started on their return to their ancestral homes, in part, and the relative peace they are enjoying, I would ensure that a very tall level of peace is retained here, and they are highly supported, and with the different security apparatuses we have, we'll continue to assist them so that they move out and do their work.
Benue State, known as the food basket of the nations, plays a critical role in Nigeria's food security. Residents fear that continued attacks could disrupt farming activities, drive food prices, threatening their safety in their ancestral homes.
Now, Adamawa State Governor Amadu Umar Fintri has confirmed that discussions are ongoing about his possible defection from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to All Progressives Congress, APC. The governor, however, said no final decision has been taken. He explained that he is consulting with his political team and key stakeholders before making any move. Fintri stressed that any decision will be guided by consultation with his constituents, noting that he intends to gauge grassroots opinion before committing to a possible party switch. The Nigeria Labour Congress and the Labour Party's Interim National Committee, led by Senator Nadi Usman, have visited the party's national secretariat to assess damage caused by a vandal attack on Tuesday night. Suspected vandals reportedly broke into the premises, destroyed property and disrupted operations. During the inspection, Senator Usman and NLC officials described the incident as unfortunate and pledged to strengthen security to prevent a recurrence. They assured party members that measures are being taken to protect the secretariat and staff.
The day we took over the office, I saw quite a number of documents, but now they've disappeared. So for me to know what was in there, it would take me a bit of time. But honestly, it's a really very sad, it's a very, very sad thing to have happened. We are not against anybody. We want to work with everybody. Anybody who wants to work with us, we just want to build the party. And for those of them who have the interests of the party at heart and are willing to work with us, we are working together. Well, I think every institution must be respected, and there must be institutional memory. When you work in an office, a ministry, a political party office, whatever, every document that belongs to that office belongs to the office. When it's your time to go, you go and you leave the document so that those who come from from behind know what has happened and they will build on it. But for us to say that whenever you are leaving a ministry or you are leaving a political party office, you must still come in the night,
or a place you do not have right or access to. You don't need to be a police officer to know that it is a very serious crime. But beside that, you will recall these same elements accused us of stealing money from this secretariat, that we took away billions, we took away workers' salaries. So the chickens have come to roost. It is consistent with their character. A thief in the night is a thief in daytime.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has proposed 873.77 billion for the 2027 general elections. INEC Chairman Josh Amopitan presented the proposal to the National Assembly's electoral committees alongside a report on the Commission's 2025 budget performance and a 171.91 billion estimate for 2026. Amopitan called for greater financial independence for INEC through a first-line charge and an end to envelope budgeting. Lawmakers assured support but urged the Commission to focus strictly on its constitutional duties. The committee also indicated it may increase the proposed budget to accommodate higher allowances for approximately 450,000 NYSC members expected to serve as ad hoc election staff.
The budget from the summary page is divided into 4 main heads. We have the election operations cost, which is 375 billion 748 195 271.47. We also have election administrative costs, which is 92 billion 311 591 396.58. We have election technology costs, which is 209 billion 205 589 977.70. And finally, we have the election capital costs, which is the sum of 154 billion 904 529 641.94.
The chairman of the Apex Northern Socio-Political Group, the Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, Mamman Mike Usman San, has cautioned political actors against prioritizing permutations for the 2027 general elections over the worsening insecurity and poverty afflicting northern Nigeria. Trust TV's Bello Musa reports.
Speaking at the 79th National Executive Committee meeting of the Forum on Wednesday at the ACF Secretariat in Kaduna, Mamman Usman said the North is experiencing one of the most difficult periods in its history, characterized by terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, economic hardship, and mass displacement. He expressed concern that despite the deepening crisis, some groups are already focused on political realignments ahead of 2027 rather than addressing urgent challenges such as out-of-school children, hunger, and the protection of lives and property.
We must disabuse our minds of persuasions that seek only to promote momentary, selfish, and primordial interests. This election season has produced convoluted groups whose focus is not on out-of-school children, hunger, poverty, frequent attacks by kidnappers, banditry, or terrorism, but rather on strategies for repositioning themselves ahead of the 2027 elections.
The ACF chairman noted that while some elected and appointed officials have supported the forum, many leaders remain disconnected from its aspirations and programs aimed at improving the welfare of the region.
Terrorism, armed banditry, insurgency, and kidnapping are on the rise, as witnessed in Kwara, Southern Kaduna, Katsina, Benue, and other locations. The consequences have been devastating, with families and communities violently uprooted and displaced. These displacements have resulted in overcrowded camps and informal settlements with limited access to basic services, increasing the risks of malnutrition and mortality among survivors.
Usman urged NEC members to approach their deliberations with sincerity and purpose, stressing that the downtrodden must remain at the center of the forum's engagement. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
You're watching News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after the break, 128 nurses begin strike at Kaduna Neuropsychiatric Hospital. This plus more will return. To stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is News Hour on Trust TV. Now let's recap the top headlines again. We told you that El-Rufai confronts security operatives, vows to take legal action. And U.S. House proposes action against illegal mining in Nigeria. Now moving on to more stories. Nigeria's Auditor General has raised fresh concerns over chronic underfunding, warning that the office cannot effectively audit the country's foreign missions. The alarm was raised during the 2026 budget defense before the House of Representatives Public Accounts Committee. The report.
Persistent funding shortfalls have left the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation unable to audit more than 95 of Nigeria's nearly 100 foreign missions in 2025. Although 653 million naira was appropriated for auditing foreign missions in 2025, only 371 million naira was released and utilized, leaving 282 million naira unspent. The office also received just 4% of its capital allocation, a development lawmakers say has severely undermined its operational capacity. For the 2026 fiscal year, the Auditor General's Office proposed 3.4 billion naira for the audit of foreign missions, but was given a spending ceiling of 633.8 million naira.
Lack of administrative independence due to delay in the passage of the audit bill, which has been passed and is waiting for concurrence with the National Assembly. Thank the honorable members for that good initiative. Delay in assessing relevant records or documents from the audited entities, and delay in answering queries from MDAs.
Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Bamidele Salam, noted that the office is constitutionally empowered under Section 85 to audit more than 1,000 ministries, departments and agencies cannot effectively carry out its mandate with such limited funding.
And the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation is the office that is ordinarily meant to ensure that those monies are well spent and well audited. And all they have to audit the sum is less than 6 billion naira. For those who can do a math, that's what percentage of the total budget. Okay, 58.4 trillion naira is the total budget.
Lawmakers warned that previous funding gaps had severely restricted audit coverage to just 5 foreign missions, raising concerns about significant oversight lapses. The committee says it will continue engagements with relevant authorities to address the funding shortfall and strengthen financial oversight of Nigeria's foreign missions. In a separate development, the Director General of the National Institute of Sports, NIS, says a major reform is underway to reposition the institute as the engine of Nigeria's sports development. Presenting the institute's 2026 budget before the House Committee on Sports, Director General Philip Shoaibu unveiled the 10-year strategic development plan, the first long-term roadmap since the institute was established in 1974. Shoaibu said decades of structural and funding challenges have weakened the institute, contributing to the recent decline in Nigeria's sports performance. He cited the deterioration of the Athletes Development Center prior to recent rehabilitation efforts as a major setback. Following the presentation, the committee increased the institute's proposed 2026 budget from 2.8 billion naira to about 60 billion naira after consultations with management and the budget office.
For us to be able to achieve our raw talent in Nigeria, to now participate in international engagement, NIS have to function. For us not to have only our children from abroad representing our country, NIS have to function. Lack of NIS functioning had led to our children born abroad are now those that are representing our country. Why? Because the facility is there.
Budget of 637 million naira, which is nothing to write home about considering the current transformation that is taking place in NIS. Therefore, we sat with the agency, with the DG, and with the committee, we initiated an idea of how we'll make sure this 2026 budget is going to be different for them.
Lawmakers say the funding boost is aimed at restoring the institute's capacity to drive sustainable sports development nationwide. Now, patients have been left stranded at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Kaduna, as nurses embarked on an indefinite industrial action, crippling activities at the facility. Our reporter observed that several wards, including the senior citizens and toxicology units, were deserted, with patients and their families seeking alternative medical care. The report.
The chairman of the union, Ewenreji Okechukwu, said issues relating to staff welfare and surcharges have remained unresolved for over 2 years, despite repeated engagement with hospital management. The union expressed dismay over unmet demands and lingering welfare concerns.
Management are not looking into that. Rather, they are
holding on to the services of the contract workers. I don't know whether we are in private setting. We are in a government setting where permanent workers are supposed to discharge their duties, but they took over locum workers to work for them. If you go to some ward now, you see about 45 patients being cared for by one nurse, and they are suffering. And yes, one locum nurse, and they are suffering. And we are saying no to that. Let them solve this problem for us and let us move ahead. And that's why we are here. We are not here to fight. We are friends of the hospital, and we must remain friends of the hospital because nurses are at the pillar of healthcare.
It has been observed that there are some individuals, our nurses, who were employed. For example, we have nurses who are graduate nurses. Based on the scheme of service, these graduate nurses, once they come with their own degree in nursing, they are supposed to be placed on Conhes 9. But we observed that some of them were placed below Conhes 9. And we try to bring it to the notice of the management so that there is going to be an adjustment. It's part of what we've mentioned to them, and they could not be able to do anything like that. Instead of them to look into this, they refuse to respond to our own plea.
Responding to the development, the hospital management, through the head of finance, Loki Abumere, expressed concern over the strike and assured that efforts are underway to address the grievances and restore normal services.
As it is today, there is no board. Usually there's a board of management. There's no board. So our next responsible authority is the Federal Ministry of Health. This matter have been formally reported to the Federal Ministry of Health. And as I speak with you, Federal Ministry of Health is fully aware, and then they have assured us that they will wade into the matter. So we are awaiting the intervention of the Federal Ministry of Health, being our employer. So we are talking to them. If they can come to understanding, oh, this is it. If there are things we can do eternally, why not? And they also know what management keep doing for the staff. It's a priority.
At the time of filing this report, wards accommodating psychiatric patients remained deserted, with some units under lock and key, raising concerns about continuity of care for vulnerable patients. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has refuted reports claiming that its Lagos office was shut down following a protest on Thursday. The protest was reportedly linked to the agency's enforcement of regulations banning the sales of sachet alcohol and alcoholic drinks in 200 ml bottles and below. In a statement, NAFDAC described reports of a shutdown as false and misleading, clarifying that although a protest took place outside its premises, official activities were not disrupted. The agency reaffirmed its commitment to public health and regulatory enforcement, insisting that its operations in Lagos remain fully functional. NAFDAC also urged the public and media to verify information before publications and disregarding claims suggesting its office was shut down.
I expected them yesterday. Day before yesterday when the decision was, and we are saying it to the federal government. If she refused to do the need.
Now, Justice Obiora Iguatu on Thursday stepped aside from presiding over the Federal High Court's asset forfeiture suit involving former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami San, and two others, citing personal reasons. Justice Iguatu told the court he could no longer continue with the matter shortly after counsel for the parties announced their appearances. He consequently directed that the case file be forwarded to the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court for reassignment. The recusal comes amid a high-stake legal battle over 57 properties valued at about 213.2 billion, which Justice Emeka Nwete had ordered to be temporarily forfeited to the federal government last month. The interim for Future, granted on January 6th, followed an ex parte application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, which insisted the assets are suspected proceeds of unlawful activity linked to Malami and his sons. And now we'll move to business. Billionaire businessman Femi Otedola has expressed optimism that the naira could strengthen to trade below 1,000 to the dollar before the end of the year. Otedola shared the view while congratulating Aliko Dangote on the Dangote refinery reaching full production capacity of 650 barrels per day. He said the refinery's ability to supply up to 75 million liters of petrol daily will reduce Nigeria's reliance on fuel imports and ease pressure on foreign exchange demand. Otedola added that Dangote has begun a $12 billion expansion project to raise the refinery capacity to 1.4 million barrels per day, alongside petrochemical production for local industries. He described the development as a major boost for Nigeria's economy and energy security. Now away from Nigeria, Cyclone Gezani has killed at least 36 people and injured hundreds in Madagascar, authorities said on Thursday. The violent storm made a landfall on Tuesday in the eastern coastal city of Tomasina, with winds reaching 250 kilometers per hour. More than 8,800 people have been displaced and over 18,000 homes were destroyed, with another 50,000 damaged or flooded. Colonel Michael Randranirana, Madagascar's new leader, called for international solidarity after cyclone ravaged up to 70% of Tomasina and its surroundings. Humanitarian teams have been clearing blocked roads and emergency efforts continue. The storm weakened after landfall, but it's expected to regain cyclone strength over the Mozambique Channel, potentially threatening southern Mozambique. Cyclone season in the southwestern Indian Ocean runs from November to April, averaging around a dozen storms each year. And now it's time for us to join Adeni Ajishafe for Sport Update.
President of Nigerian Football Federation NFF, Ibrahim Gusso, says the federation will soon engage Super Eagles coach Eric Chell for contract extension talks. Gusso cleared the air amid speculations that Tunisia, Olympique Marseille and other clubs are currently courting Eric Chell. According to NFF President, Chelsea has a contract with the team and is actively involved in NFF's vision for Super Eagles.
And therefore, whatever interest anybody will show on him, he has to wait until his contract expires. And basically, we don't want to bring some distraction on him, and because we quite well understand that he enjoys working with Nigeria, because it's not about team is interested in you, and it's not about because he has gotten the results with the Super Eagles. So if you go to the other team, despite the fact that they are going to give him more money, he's going to get the results. That's not the issue. The issue there, did they have the materials for him to work with to achieve what he wants to achieve? The dream of every single coach is to make sure that he achieves success, especially on higher tournaments. So when you are saying that I want the coach, we are going to look for the coach to come and we are going to pay him so amount of money, it's not the issue of the money, but will he achieve what he wants to achieve in his career? Or is he just going there for the money? So, but the key thing is that I know Coach Eric believes in Super Eagles, and he believed that he can achieve whatever he wants to achieve in his career when it comes to coaching.
On the plans to integrate younger players in the team, NFF President revealed more.
And the most importantly is the discovery of some new young talent. And there are more still coming, because, what even make us to have some little issues in trying to introduce more of those young players is that we intend to have some quality-friendly matches during the November window. Unfortunately, we have to go for the playoff. So if not because of the playoff, we intend to give the coach the opportunity to try some new young players at those friendly matches that we intend to play in November.
Gusso expressed satisfaction with the impact of Eric Chell on Super Eagles, believing the coach has what it takes to succeed. That's Sport News. I'm Adeni Ajishafe.
And with that, we wrap the news hour on Trust TV. Do not forget to watch and catch us across all our social media platforms and join our YouTube live stream for more news, programs and documentaries. I'm Fatima Ahmed Musa from me and the crew. Thank you for watching.